by 2025, we're expected to hit global e-commerce sales of over $7 trillion US. Can you believe that?
The smiley face, the yellow one with that big smile, right? It was actually filed as a trademark in 1971 in France.
Welcome to our brand new podcast. Do you use a social commerce platform? Welcome to our brand new podcast, Curious About IP. Today we have with us James Chia, Brand Cooperation Manager of TikTok's e-commerce IPR protection team. And next to him, we have Lo Jingwei, IP strategist from our IP strategy solutions team. Since we have TikTok here with us today, you might guess what this episode is about. That's right, social media. Not just that, TikTok has been very big on the e-commerce front ever since they've launched their TikTok shop in 2021, making them a social commerce platform.
Absolutely right, Cynthia. I'm very pleased to be able to join you all from TikTok Shop here today, and maybe set the scene a little bit for everybody, from some research which has been conducted in the recent years. Everyone knows that e-commerce has been growing very quickly, but by 2025, we're expected to hit global e-commerce sales of over $7 trillion US. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's a lot.
I mean, that's bigger than the GDP of, I think, quite a few different countries.
Yeah, many.
Very significant.
Which countries are TikTok shop in right now?
Great question. So we're primarily a Southeast Asian business at the moment. So TikTok Shop is available in 6 markets across Southeast Asia: Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Indonesia.
Oh,
yeah. So I think that's all of them. We're also, it is, right?
Yeah.
So I haven't missed any, but we're also active in the UK. We launched in the UK back in 2021. And more recently, we launched in the US as well.
You've shared about the e-commerce fun fact, and do you know something about the IP one? The smiley face, the yellow one with that big smile, right? It was actually filed as a trademark in 1971 in France. So that company is continuing to generate licensing revenue from just that simple image.
Yeah, it's
They have
fascinating.
as a trademark.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think I did know that it went back so far.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Cynthia,
No,
but
I don't know. Yeah.
but it's a very interesting example, I think, isn't it? That
Yeah.
maybe the layperson or a business owner who's coming to social commerce, for example,
Yeah.
often the focus is on the business, but at some point they need to engage with the concepts of IP.
Yes.
And they need to know the basics, like you can renew them as long as you're on top of your admin and paperwork. But those things become really key, especially as a business grows.
Correct, exactly. And copyright is, of course, another issue. Very common on e-commerce. I mean, we see repeats of different pictures from different sellers before, right?
Yeah.
All of us have encountered
I
that.
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Let me scroll through the platforms,
Correct.
right?
From our point of view at TikTok Shop, we're very content-led. We're an entertainment platform, really. And so what drives traffic to products listed on TikTok Shop is engaging content. And creators are encouraged to come and develop and find their own voice and then increase the amount of content which they're producing, right? So there's multiple different aspects of IP to that journey. And thinking about it early is really key. And it's something from our point of view as a platform, we encourage and coach new sellers to think about IP at an early stage. So there are some operational ways that we can help them do that. For example, encourage sellers to think about even simple things like what they're going to call their store. Right? So there's the possibility of infringing IP just in the name of the way you name your store, let alone which products you might come and market. And again, for a lot of sellers, they're so excited and exuberant about the prospect of developing their business that we don't want to stop that momentum, but we want to help that momentum turn into a sustainable business, using TikTok Shop as a platform.
Yeah.
So for us, it's really been a core component of how we can use IP to help our sellers establish themselves well, build a strong foundation, and hopefully develop a really good business on the platform.
Talking about creating content, right? They would be, the kind of IP rights that's underlying it would actually be a lot of copyrighted material, even when they use music or generated their own musical scores, or, those are copyrighted stuff. So that's another thing that they should take note of, right? There's a misconception that we find when we talk to some individuals, they may not be aware. Just because it is in public domain doesn't mean it is free for use.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think just because we have our tools are so good nowadays, you know, the ability for anybody to go online and so easily borrow from a third party source, it feels, I think it potentially feels like that's okay. But obviously, as you know, people in the IP world, we know that's really not the best way to approach it at all.
Not the best practice,
And one thing which we find ourselves saying to sellers who might have taken that approach is not knowing is not going to be a sufficient explanation if you encounter problems. So if a rights holder comes and makes a complaint to us as a platform, for example, the seller cannot just say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know. You know, that's not
a defense.
It's not a defense. No way.
You guys do take note. Not knowing is not a defense. Back to TikTok Shop. Maybe, James, you can tell us how TikTok Shop differs from other social commerce platforms.
Absolutely, yeah. And we certainly do. It's something of a unique platform in the sense that we combine what TikTok is really famous for, which is entertainment through content and specifically short form videos and live streams. We combine that with some of the elements of, I guess, traditional e-commerce or linear e-commerce. And by that, I mean product listings with images and descriptions and pricing information and so on. So what makes us different in the user experience is that TikTok users who are enjoying all types of content on the platform may come across something which they think, hey, I'm interested in that particular product, right? Maybe it's a content reviewing it or just referring to it. And then the way the platform is built enables users to simply navigate through from a piece of content to a product listing. Right. So in that way, the platform facilitates traffic to go and discover the whole range of exciting products available on TikTok Shop.
Wow.
There are a lot of products on TikTok Shop. So Mei, as our IP expert, maybe you can share with our viewers, what they should consider from an IP perspective before selling their products on like a e-commerce platform like the TikTok Shop.
Let's say you are a first-time seller and you actually have your set up own brand. First thing we would highly recommend you to do is to check whether that brand is used by anyone else or not, so you don't accidentally use other people's branding. And if it's not, and it's a brand you like to kind of hold ownership over, right? Go ahead and get registration for it as a trademark with IPOS, and then that enables you to kind of use that for your marketing and your branding. So that's if you're a brand owner. So let's say you are a reseller of someone else's product, like a distributor, etc., which is how a lot of people start off their business with. You should definitely make sure you get the necessary rights from your reseller, because in case you're using their images from them, you should check with them whether they would, you have the rights to do so, or maybe feature their brand on your page. Yeah, so things like that are just some 2 key ways to think about it.
I think that's a really useful point to highlight. Our users and everyone online really is enabled by some fantastic tools to go and discover what's out there and maybe make the choice to borrow from images they find online. Right? But the reality is that is likely to be a form of infringement, right? If you don't have the authorization to use a particular copyrighted image in this case, I think for our sellers, a lot of them are at that early stage which you described. So they might be just entering into their e-commerce journey. They may not have a lot of experience in business prior to that. And so it's a time when they're focused on getting things started, focusing on sales and marketing. But if they miss out on that early window to think about IP, whether it's related to copyright or trademark, then there's an increased likelihood that if they encounter any problems in future, it might be harder to solve. So it's a bit like a form of investment, right? You have to invest your time to think a little bit about this, understand about how IP rights work. If you're creating your own IP, take the necessary steps to protect it.
Exactly. Especially when there are different kinds of IP rights that might reside in the e-commerce content creator, right? It's not just copyright, there's trademarks, sometimes even registered design. So
absolutely,
they really need to understand it so that they can protect themselves from,
I think so too. I mean, ultimately, as a platform, we're here to help provide enjoyment and facilitate business growth, right?
Yeah.
And so we want that to be sustainable.
Mm.
So for things like copyright in
Yep.
particular, you're right that some sellers might borrow from official marketing images
Yes.
when they don't have authorization to do so. And I think for some sellers, they feel like that's a bit of a grey area because they might see that behavior online. They might see that behavior on other e-commerce platforms. But the reality is, if they ever encounter a situation where a rights holder has seen that use, unauthorized use, and then they might come to us as a platform and make a complaint, then that seller who receives a complaint against them really doesn't have a leg to stand on. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And so, we have a very well-defined governance framework. So if sellers are identified as having any IP infringements taking place, it will negatively impact their ability to continue operating. Because for us, it's integrally important that we maintain trust.
Yeah.
We want all of our users to come back having a good, positive experience, trust the platform, trust the products that they get hold of, and have a good shopping experience.
Exactly. I think there are a lot of goods online. I'm an avid e-commerce user as well. So
Okay.
You and me both.
I hope TikTok Shop is in there. I hope we are becoming your preferred platform.
I mean, so sometimes we do struggle. You get the goods and then it's like, hey, it doesn't look like the image that I saw.
Right.
Right. So as a user, you get a bit upset at it.
Yeah.
Some of the horror stories from like the
Exactly.
e-commerce platforms, right? Yeah.
Lego is like one of the very common, because I have kids, so we are like buying Lego
Hey, you don't need to talk about your kids. I'm sure you love making Lego yourself. I know I do.
Yeah, so there are tons of non-Lego branded bricks. Toys.
Sure. In the wider marketplace, to my knowledge, that's not an issue we face on TikTok Shop, but we're an open marketplace, right? So it's possible that sellers might come to the platform and if they're bad actors, right, they might try and sell something which is inauthentic. And for things like toys, like Lego, fake toys have a direct impact potentially on the safety of our children, right?
Yeah.
The production quality isn't there. So the safety concerns are higher. And nobody wants to encounter that kind of problem. And that's one of the reasons why our focus on IP protection is quite well developed. It's a big area of investment for us because we recognize that there can be those spillover consequences if we don't do the right thing.
So can I just take it back one step backwards a little bit and just ask maybe for James, let's say I'm a authentic reseller.
Okay.
And I take the marketing images from the actual brand and use it to sell on an e-commerce platform, let's say TikTok Shop. Am I allowed to do that?
The answer is it depends. In your description, you're an authorized reseller. I think you used that terminology.
Yeah.
So the question is, in what way and to what extent are you authorized? Maybe you're a distributor here in Singapore for a specific brand. But if you're a distributor, you are afforded that commercial right through an agreement. And then it depends what's written in your agreement. You might have the right to sell. You might have the right to sell in certain channels, be that in retail channels and or online. But it may be ambiguous or unaddressed whether you have the rights to use original IP created by the brand owner, which could include copyrighted images, right?
Like the marketing material.
Like the marketing materials. So, and this is a very live topic. We have a variety of different sellers, some of whom are distributors, but they can sometimes encounter that problem where they assume that they can utilize official marketing images because they're the distributor online, right? But there may be a gap in that understanding between the local distributor and, the mothership of the rights owner. And rights owners, big brands are actively monitoring online e-commerce marketplaces, including TikTok Shop. So if they see a sudden spike in the use of their original marketing images and they don't have any record they've provided authorization for sellers to do so, then that's going to be a problem. So it's really important, I think, for businesses who want to secure distribution rights, who want to access online sales channels, to think about the IP component of that journey.
What are the other initiatives that TikTok Shop takes to safeguard IP rights within the ecosystem?
Well, we've invested a lot, honestly.
I can imagine.
Yeah, we really have. And I think one thing I would highlight is something called our IP Protection Center. So that's an online platform which we've developed, which is designed to be a main channel for IP rights holders and their service providers, if they have them, to create a user account, upload IP rights documents, whether that's trademark certificates, design rights, patents. We also support unregistered copyright and, where relevant, registered copyright too. And by taking that step to upload that evidence, then they can use our tool to monitor the products which are listed on TikTok Shop. So what it enables is for rights holders who hold valid IP in a specific market where TikTok Shop is operating, then they can provide evidence of that IP, conduct searches. If they find anything concerning to them, they can prepare and submit a notice and takedown request, which would then come to our IP protection team at TikTok Shop. And it'll be checked through by an informed group of humans. It's not an automated process. But what that means is it's looked at very carefully. And then the next steps are taken. So what we've done is invest in the infrastructure to enable rights holders to then monitor, conduct their engagement with us in a way which is user-friendly and hopefully efficient.
I do have a question about that, because sometimes we talk to companies and they do wonder if I'm selling in Singapore, it's online, other people can access as well, right? And how do they stop others from taking their images and using it? So as we know, copyright is in general, it rises automatically, so you don't have to register with anyone. I hope we can address later about the part of unregistered and registered copyright as well, because I think some jurisdictions may have that. So it rises automatically, and technically you can enforce your rights in another country as though you are a resident there, as long as if both countries are members to the Berne Convention, right? So in such cases, right, how would, let's say I'm a seller in Singapore and then I want to report that someone in TikTok Shop elsewhere has my images or using my images, how would y'all deal with that? Like, what kind of evidences do I need to provide to prove that I actually own those things?
Yeah, that's a really fantastic question, and something which does crop up from time to time. So, I'd address the part about copyright having a sort of international effect, right? So we obviously are aware of the sort of technicalities of the copyright regime and have built the IP Protection Center to fit within that operating environment. So to take your example, if there's a seller who's created their own marketing images based in Singapore, but if they encounter those marketing images being maybe uploaded to the platform in another market, say Southeast Asia, then they can use our IP Protection Center to upload evidence of their ownership of the copyright in those images. And what do I mean by that? Specifically, what we request is for users to upload the kind of raw form of images. So by that, I don't mean the technical file format of recording raw. I mean the unedited images, which might have been the production, the output of a product shoot. Right?
It's really nice to hear how TikTok Shop is on the forefront of IP protection. Before we wrap up, maybe we can share with our viewers some key takeaways. Timay, maybe you'd like to go first?
Okay, sure. So I think the first thing is anyone who's selling online should know to protect your own rights. The next one is actually to work with a reputable platform, because the last thing you want is for them to not help you take down or enforce your rights. And the last one is to avoid infringing other people's rights.
Yeah, I think they're fantastic pieces of advice. And I would maybe add one or two onto that, which is think about protecting your IP rights early. That's something we discussed. But also do think about investing enough in creating your own original works. Create your own videos, create your own photographs of products. And some of the things I would advise against are, don't assume that you can freely use other people's copyrighted marketing images. It's not quite so straightforward. And maybe the final piece of advice would be not to list products, or not to focus on products which you really don't have the authorization to use the brand or trademark for. okay? Because that is likely to come back and cause you problems in future. It's something that which we can pick up on at a very early stage.
Well, thank you, James and Jinwei, for your insightful sharing. And thank you to everyone at home for tuning in. That's the end of this episode. Until next time. But remember to stay curious, stay informed, and stay tuned for more episodes. Bye for now.